Reports say National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan will be meeting with the Chinese regime's top diplomat to discuss the conflicts in the Middle East. This comes as the Biden administration pushes Beijing to rein in Iran and its proxies. Joining us now to dive into how China's connected to the Middle East, we have Kash Patel. He's the senior advisor to former President Trump for national security, defense, and intelligence. Kash Patel, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Now, amid all the tensions we're seeing in the Middle East, China is saying it's working to de-escalate the situation, at least in the Red Sea. Now, White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby is saying the U.S. welcomes China's help. That's despite the tensions we're seeing between the U.S. and China. What do you make of this?
Well, this White House, John Kirby, Biden, Sullivan, etc., are responsible for the disaster and the ongoing war in the Red Sea, to include the deaths of 2 U.S. Navy soldiers because of their disastrous national security policy actions. And now we're to believe them that they're getting in bed with the CCP to quell the situation. How about we first get affirmation from our government that the CCP isn't the one selling armaments and munition to Iran, who got $6 billion from the Biden administration, and they are now flush with cash to fulfill the weapons request of their forces, the Houthis, a terrorist organization, Hamas, and Hezbollah. Let's get that on the record first before we trust the Chinese to safeguard our waterways, one in which Maersk, the largest global shipping company in the world, has again shut down transit through the Red Sea because it's such a disaster.
Expanding on that, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is on his way to meet with China's top foreign policy official Wang Yi to discuss the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. Now, how should we read China's role in the Middle East? Is it trying to maybe become a diplomatic brokering peace that we saw with the so-called peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia earlier last year? How should we read this?
No, remember, China is backed by this and run by the CCP, and their only interest is the CCP and the augmentation of their power. We, the United States of America, cannot rely on Iran to be brokered into a peace deal somehow. They're not going to become the Switzerland of the Middle East to quell the Iranian situation. And we have to remind our audience how much money and power Iran now possesses, and they're still the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. So I don't really have any faith in the fact that this administration is going out of its way to engage the CCP. That just shows you that they themselves, the United States government, cannot quell the situation. That should tell you how far we've fallen. And the CCP continues to seize fentanyl through our borders, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, working with the Iranians and the Russians to see illegal immigrants and terrorists through our borders. And so maybe they shut all that down, and then maybe they can have some credibility on the global stage for quote-unquote peace negotiations.
Now, what does Beijing's rising influence in the region mean for the U.S.?
It's a big problem. Remember, we had cut off Iran in the Trump administration from the global banking system. We had sanctioned companies and individuals in and around Iranian regime and the Ayatollah and the Quds Force, so they couldn't do any business with anybody until they got in line and stopped killing our allies and stopped committing acts of terrorism. Joe Biden reversed course, removed the sanctions, gave them $6 billion. And who's their number one trading partner around? The Chinese. And we now know that Iran has built itself nuclear weapons grade uranium, and they can go acquire these delivery systems from Russia, the Chinese, and the CCP. And they're doing heavy trading with them. So all of it combined is a disastrous situation that I don't think is going to quell the situation. I think Jake Sullivan and Biden are going to be duped yet again by the superiority of the CCP's domination on the global stage.
Now, total war, as referred to by Prussian military strategist Karl von Clausewitz, help us understand how we're seeing that play out.
Look, everyone is bombing everyone, literally. The Iranians are bombing the Pakistanis. The Iranians used to bomb the Saudis. The Iranians are now, and their forces are bombing the Israelis and everyone in the Red Sea and American ships, and causing people to die and civilians to be killed. You have the CCP, who is the world's bank, put it that way, in terms of Afghanistan trade, Iranian trade, dealing with Russia, DPRK in North Korea. And so I think we have been in a global war since the Ukraine offensive launched by Russia. Make no mistake about it. It's a war. And when hundreds of people are taken hostage in the Middle East and thousands of people are murdered in Israel as a result of a terrorist attack, That's an ongoing war that has not yet been stopped. And so it's a tragic situation. We have seen the explosion of 2 new world wars, and America continues to fund Iran recklessly and lose weapons and money in the Ukraine, not Iran, fund Ukraine to the tune of $130 billion. And I just don't have any confidence that this administration is going to do anything other than try to save face by printing lies in the media.
Kash Patel, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.